Welcome. I'm Leah Gergely-Webb from Network Planet. I'm really honored to have you all listening and watching this webinar about how to lead a charity to have greater impact or to completely solve problems in society. First, some housekeeping. You should have received a worksheet. If you have it handy, that's great. If not, it may be that you're watching the video on YouTube. I encourage you to print it out and save it somewhere and use it. The worksheet, we'll try to post it in the comments below or a link to it. Second, we're recording this program on the 3rd of November 2016 at 1 p.m. Greenwich Mean Time. We'll make the link to the recording available as soon as possible afterward, and we hope that those of you in attendance live will spread it far and wide. Our email is included often in the slides, and we'd love hearing from you. We'll respond to questions, if appropriate, very happily. I'm only in English on this recording. If you want this program recorded in another language, including the slides, please ask, and I'll try to get it right over to you. Send me all of your notes or your feedback by email, if you don't mind. I'll use them for insight and improvements of my own. Okay, let's get to work. You've tuned into the right webinar if you are a board member or a director or a manager of a group of people or a place. Maybe you don't have a leader's title, but you know you're a leader. Maybe you are a young leader, or you've moved from the private sector to the public interest sector, or you're getting ready to go for promotion. Yay! The thing is, as a leader, you know that you have to keep challenging yourself and learning better ways of doing things for the benefit of the movement of which you're part. That's why we're here today. You're not just here because you're a leader, though. This isn't just any group assembled. You're not leading just any organization. You are here because you're a leader of an organization that does something to make the world a better place. You work with organizations that want to cure a disease, relieve suffering, stop pollution, create beauty, and gosh, many more noble causes that seek to improve life for us all. And that's why you're here, because there are problems you want to solve. Imagine it. Imagine if your organization found the solution to the problem, the suffering that would be averted. That's why we're here, and it's why we'll be talking about how to get our organizations to learn from the information that is most helpful to lead to finding that solution more effectively and more continually until the problem is solved. And we want to make that sooner rather than later. A little note about my presentation. It's from me, and I made a very conscious decision not to use images that are distressing or panic inciting. We're here to keep our focus on doing the best we can as leaders to get the greatest impact from the organizations we lead. We want to work as fast and effectively as possible, and staying positive helps. Being panicked is not a sustainable state. I'm not going to emotionally attack you with distressing images, but instead, I hope to keep you thinking clearly and give you some helpful mental images to keep you on track. I love this slide. Probably a little too much. How many of you have or are a manager who feels like the guide in this cartoon? You might want to ask your staff what it brings to mind for them. I'm an impact evaluator, and I was a manager of a social enterprise, and I was an attorney for a large legal charity before that. I know that too often, too much time and effort is being spent collecting evidence from which little or no helpful learning is gained. Data is put in a box, often very literally, and put away. There is frustration among staff and managers because too often nothing is learned from evidence that charities are required to collect. You and your team might be like any other not-for-profit organization professionals who feel like the data and evaluation keeps you from getting the actual work done. It takes masses of time, it isn't what the staff signed up for, and it hasn't really been helpful. A September 2016 report from the Center for Effective Philanthropy found that most of even the senior evaluation and program staff are challenged to find any meaningful insight from the data they collect. These were foundation leaders in evaluation, and I know they want to find insights from data. But having the wrong data or the wrong amount of data or data from the wrong source can make that really impossible. So today, we'll talk about doing better, changing our data strategies, enabling you and your team to feel great about the data you are using. You're using it or allowing others to use it in order to gain the learning that's needed. And you're going to get not just insight, but useful knowledge from it. I mean, you're really going to be able to solve some big problems. Before we learn the 5 keys for leading to greater impact, though, we have to remind ourselves of our primary goal. So on the worksheet, the very first question says, very oversimply, what is the main goal of your organization? Try to answer that for me. This is mainly for you. It can be difficult, but try to state something very simple like unemployed people will become employed, or no more homeless pets, or art charities will have sufficient funds. Not a goal that's beyond the organization, like ending all poverty. If you operate homeless shelters, while you might work against the growth of poverty, your organization's goal is more like provide shelter to those who don't have it. But jot down a note about what organization you know of that is concerned with the causes of the problem you solve. Today, for instance, in the news, we heard that things in prisons are worse than they should be here in the UK. So Her Majesty's Prison Service should answer the following question, or this question, with a goal like, our goal is to provide safe and effective incarceration as ordered by criminal courts. We'll come back to this example, possibly, as we work through things today. The answer to what organizations might want to cure the problems of people going to prison would be others, parents, schools, mental health care providers, police, governing bodies, lawyers, barristers, and the list goes on and on. For me, the main goal of my organization is to help nonprofit organizations collect and use data effectively. I, big picture, want the organizations to find solutions to the world's most difficult problems. But I know what my role is in getting to that target. My role is about getting the data right. So if Her Majesty's prisons ask us for a data strategy, I'm going to find the data that helps the organization both provide safe and effective incarceration. That's the data that they're going to look at, that they're going to use. But we may talk about using other data that they have that can help all of the other parties to reduce the number of people ordered into incarceration, because that's the bigger goal, but it takes working together. Your answer might change as we work through this session, and that's all right. In this session, you can learn some things. First, the most critical element you'll learn for creating and or maintaining an organization-wide practice of using real evidence in decision-making. Why? Because learning from real evidence will lead the organization to develop solutions to the problems it wants to solve, to make fewer mistakes in delivery of programs. Evidence will inform the processing of failure to and enable real learning from it. All this means, ultimately, success in reaching those goals. We're going to learn things that have been studied in organizational culture. They have been studied many times. This is not just one study that was designed to sell my services. None of them were designed to sell my services. My services were designed to meet the need. I've been in direct services and management, and now I'm a studier of studies and of data use. I thank you for the chance to share my expertise with you today. I've reviewed studies about the methods of effective learning. about change and use of evidence in organizations because I want to understand how I can best help my clients who are organizations like yours. After finding out what may be the most critical element for maintaining the effective use of evidence in a culture, you can also learn 4 proven principles for instituting a culture built for finding solutions to the big problems. If you're like me, you might think that we social service providers can't or don't use science and evidence as well as our medical counterparts. But in my work in healthcare consulting, I've come to realize that social service providers are wrong. They struggle, medical service providers struggle too, because this isn't easy. Even in medicine, a field of scientists, getting people to use evidence from scientific research is difficult. They have the same barriers as we do: time, competing demands, fear of leaving behind satisfactory practices for something new. They also have political hurdles and personal hurdles, just like social service providers. A systematic review, again, of studies of the Plan, Do, Study, Act method, which was designed to try to improve quality in healthcare, found that there was very little adherence to the method after adoption by medical offices and hospitals. Learning from failure, thankfully, doesn't always have to be our own. We will look at the findings of organizational change studies to find out how to get our people to follow procedures that will enable the use of evidence and innovation to achieve better outcomes. We, right now, will use data from failure and success for improvement and change and growth of well-meaning organizations. Before we begin, we will quickly discuss what we mean by using data. I just want to be certain that we're all on the same page. I don't want to waste anyone's time by talking about something that you're not understanding. Please send any comments, by the way, if I lose you or if I failed to explain enough about the material that I'm discussing, and I'll get back to you. My email will be posted many times, and you can leave comments too. We're going to really begin getting at solving those big problems that your group exists to solve. And so we're going to talk a little about the sort of data that you should probably have at the center of your data strategy: open data, shared data, linked data, and systematic reviews. You'll hear about some of the newest and most promising options for charities, and you'll be able to use this new knowledge to make your organization much more insightful. I have faith that the new things you'll learn today will lead to finding solutions to some of the largest, most intractable social problems we know, and maybe even doing it with efficiency that we haven't imagined. I'm really, really excited about what we will do. So let's begin. If I may briefly, I want to tell you the reason this gets me so excited. I call this slide the reality that inspires me. I've been that woman, the one surrounded by mounds of legal work. Before becoming a policy analyst and an impact evaluator, I was a lawyer for good, as we're known. That means I did lawyering to help alleviate suffering and save lives and make the community better and safer. I worked for years at a legal services office that provided access to lawyers for people who could not afford it. Legal aid is, like many large nonprofits, underfunded and dependent on many grants. These come with many reporting requirements. I have always been sort of a tech lover, so I kept my data in pretty good order. But I had colleagues and mentors who were brilliant, dedicated attorneys for the poor who were rubbish at entering data into the database. And they definitely weren't creating additional databases for data that wasn't required by funders. They were doing work that they believed, very rightfully, had undeniable value. Elder law, housing law, disability law. They were super dedicated and wise advocates. They couldn't see the value in spending precious time inputting the obvious, and no one asked them to design a database of information that would be useful for them, like about possible biases in certain courts or previous complaints about very aggressive adverse party counsel. So the paper all around the lawyer in the cartoon is full of data that the bar might want to have, the licensing authority might want to have, that others might want to have about what's happening there. But how much of that is really going to be used and how much of it is not being benefited from? That's why I'm here, trying to bridge the data and data systems with the work of Charities, because there's a lot of good work to do. And I use the legal example a lot because it's important to know that you can do this work even while protecting privacy and protecting people's data. Okay, this is a little bit weird. I never know when to bring it up because I'm not a salesperson, but I've designed a list that we can all join, leaders of charities can join together and keep each other going, and it'll be a really good thing to take part in. I'll give you the way to get involved at the end of this program, so stay with me. All right, on to talk about data. What does using data mean in this class, and what does it not mean? Well, we are not talking about your mobile phone's data plan. We are talking about evidence, and I will use the two words interchangeably, data and evidence. Actually, I'll use three words interchangeably, because when I say evidence, I'm not always talking about a crime. I'm talking about information. So data, evidence, information, all the same thing. We're not going to cover collection of evidence in this program. I cover that in a different program, and it is available as an in-person workshop, which I highly recommend for your staff if they're collecting any evidence. All right, so data is information or evidence. If we ask the legal aid attorney in the earlier cartoon, what's the data you need to enter into your computer system? She would probably tell you the amount of time spent on each task and the number of cases closed recently. Now let's stop and ask, what is that data used for? It's used for reporting and maybe for managing her workload. This course is about using information to inform decisions and strategies. Managing is decisions and strategies, but that's not exactly what we're talking about. It is a part of what we're talking about. I hope you can see the naval officer, though, in this slide's image. From the looks of it, she might be using data to chart a safe path for a ship. If so, she's making decisions and strategizing based on evidence or information. When I design a data strategy, I have to consider these two critical questions for classifying each bit of data. Is this for reporting requirement? Is it for learning or problem solving? Those are the two different kinds. One's for reporting and one's for learning or problem solving. That's a question on your worksheet. I also have to ask myself who will use this data? The one who's collecting it or someone who's looking at it long after collection? Sometimes data is both used for reporting and learning, but it's important to recognize the difference. At Network Planet, we advise clients on managing data for reporting and for learning, and we keep the users of evidence in mind and design tools to keep things efficient and in good order for the right person at the right time. I'm getting a little off topic, but I want you to know that. What does it mean to use evidence? Back on topic. It means learning or acting from accurate information. The lawyer in the cartoon before has lots of data, reports from witnesses, including expressions of emotions. Actually, let me stop with that example. Let's go back to Her Majesty's prisons at the moment. The people working in the prisons, the social workers in the prisons, the teachers in the prisons, the people that are working on the issues that I heard them talking about on the radio this morning, they have lots of data. They have expressions of emotions. They have information about the person's mental stability. They have requests from courts with dates. They have information about economics, history, backgrounds. They even have things like medical records. They've got loads of information. There's data in stacks and stacks of paper all over the place. And it could be data for good that really shows us how to change something, not merely data for data. The legal aid lawyer's data or the prison's data can be used in each person's case as evidence, maybe, and it can also be used behind the evidence to make decisions about case strategy or what to do for that person right now. The attorney can use data and does use data in their own head usually about when to submit something to a court for the best judge or how to deal with opposing counsel, what social services a certain client might need based on personal information like educational background or health. All of that is use of data. But there's also data in these things about how to stop the problems that led the client or the inmate into these situations to begin with. Now, whether that's the goal of legal aid or Her Majesty's Prison, or whether it's the goal of other organizations, is that different question. But let's keep in mind that those other organizations really would like to have that data because it will help them solve their problem. So, would we like the data to work on eliminating the problem? Yes, of course we would. Some organization just might really like to do that. When we're working on social problems, do we have a moral obligation to share the insights we have with organizations that might look at the data in a different light? There are many ways to use data and more sources than organizations usually consider for finding the data that they need. Charities rarely use all of the available data to inform decisions about how to provide their services or how to solve the problem that they reportedly seek to solve. And this is where linking and open data comes in, as well as systematic reviews. Depending on the problem the organization wants to solve, there's a great deal of data that might lead to a great reduction in the need for services in the future. There's data that could help to completely solve some problems. And in this new world of open data, linkable data, and open sourcing, you can lead your organization to help find that data and to share that data that you and other organizations can use. Even if you're handling, again, extremely protected data, there are ways to share it that are useful and still protect the individual's privacy. That's our brief review of data use. Now let's get into the first and maybe most important point for you in particular to take away today. Studies show that an organization can get closer to solving its problem of interest if it learns from evidence and makes its decisions about problems by using evidence. Your first acronym for the day is EIDM, Evidence-Informed Decision Making. We want our organizations to be as full of evidence-informed decision-making as possible, and we have many studies about organizations that have tried to incorporate the use of evidence into the day-to-day operation of the organization. Most, guess what, have failed. But from the studies, we can see that creating an organization-wide culture of EIDM is best established and most successfully established when the leaders exhibit the use of evidence in decision-making. So evidence-informed decision-making begins with you, the leader. In 2016, the University College London's Epicenter conducted a systematic review of all the studies about how organizations successfully use evidence in decision-making. A systematic review is an attempt to bring together as many studies as can be found on an issue and make some conclusions from that. That is a grossly oversimplified description of a systematic review. But we can do other courses on those if you like, and they are a preferred evidence source. In The Science of Using Science, which was the name of the article, researchers found that one of the most consistently important factors in an organization successfully taking up EIDM was the leaders exhibiting the practice. Let me repeat that absolutely clearly. If you want your team to do it, then exhibit the practice of using evidence to inform your decision-making. There is a saying from Albert Schweitzer, I think, that holds something like, teaching by example is not an alternative method of teaching, it is the only way to teach. That is an oversimplification of teaching, granted, but I'd be willing to bet that each of us here listening to this video has cherished successful practices of our own that we developed because one of our early mentors taught us to follow a certain rule. Two of my old bosses and one teacher are always with me. My first algebra teacher, who always checked every single problem by working it backwards after she solved it, and my boss when I worked in fashion, who taught me how to really react when a new trend in a dress was brilliant, and the director when I was at Legal Aid, who taught me that I would get great work from employees for a long time and they would be really happy if you let them do the work they love. I didn't only hear these messages, I saw these professionals consistently doing these things. Every algebra problem was done and then checked. When a new design showed fast early selling, the sample was brought in immediately and the reordering systems went into effect. And passionate advocates for the poor were encouraged to identify the types of cases on which they were most satisfied to work, rather than being forced to work on matters that failed to excite. Jot down, or send me a little note if you want, with one person who you feel set a great example for you. What was that skill or trait that she or he consistently exhibited that stays with you in a positive way? This can be anything, something from a parent or a teacher, a boss, a friend, a public leader, a character in a book or in a story. But it's something that you keep hold of because you admired the person's success in using that skill. Now, think of someone who told you to do something, but they never did it themselves. What was that lesson? Can you think of one? If you can, I really want to hear about it. I think that we probably do learn from other people telling us about their failures to do something, but I think we most learn from hearing about experiences. So if someone tells us about something that they did and it failed, we might remember that. But if they just tell us to do something and they don't ever do it and haven't ever done it and don't know if it will be successful, we're probably less likely to learn from that. So no. Now, don't you want to be remembered for making sound, confident, evidence-based decisions? I think you do, and you might reach that goal today. Let's see. I'll admit, however, there's one big assumption here, which is that you are not running an extremely hierarchical organization. The ideal organization in what we're talking about is one where you do you and your employees do your employees, or she or he does he or she or he. The model of an extreme hierarchy is not necessarily bad, but it is at best extremely risky because everything depends on one person having perfect judgment and decision making. No, so we're assuming that you're doing your role and others are doing their role and that they've been entrusted with making decisions. And now they will be entrusted with making decisions based on quality evidence whenever possible. And you are responsible for management expertise, which includes managing the culture of decision-making, encouraging a culture of EIDM. It has the words decision-making in it. It is not to say that individuals are making decisions on only by themselves necessarily, but whether it's an individual or a committee or a chain of individuals, the basis of the decision is evidence that the organization agrees is high enough quality to be considered. Second acronym for today, is going to be EAST. Something we impact evaluators often do is we drag along behavioral change scientists for evaluations. And you can find a great behavioral insights team, which is part of the UK government. They have a great paper on EAST, which means easy, attractive, simple, and timely. This is an evidence-based actual method for changing behavior or for encouraging the maintenance of a behavior. Using this method, EAST, we begin with E for easy. And I've made the test for easy, easy. 2 steps. First, make sure that the people have the evidence at hand, that it's at hand for those who should be using it, and that they have the opportunity to use it. So first, let's talk about having it. This begins with some simple questions about reading evidence and analysis from the field. Does the organization have for employees journals to which it subscribes? Do each of the decision makers or decision-making bodies have pertinent subscriptions for the field of their work? Do the roles of the decision makers require monitoring of new evidence about the problems you're trying to solve, or a certain method of addressing the problems, or methods of doing a certain job? You're not limited to only academic journals at all. There are oodles of sources for staying current in evidence, and having a team retreat is really fun to discuss and explore these terrific sources. And again, this is a service that we're happy to provide. It's really great fun. It helps to figure out whether people are accessing the right sort of evidence for the level of processing that they can do. For your evaluators, it asks things like, are they regularly monitoring sources of open data? How about a workshop for them to explore external sources and options for sharing data with other organizations? Are they even familiar with large open data publishers like the World Bank, government databases, international open data sources? Can open data be used? Is it being watched for? Does the organization know about the open data movement? Examples include environmental data, mental health data, government spending, and many, many more. You need a dashboard, maybe, to bring together the sources that you need for your decisions. And we can make you one, somebody else can make you one, and new dashboards appear every day that may be very pertinent for you. You might not need one made for you at all. So it's a really exciting time full of change. So reviewing easy. It's easy if it comes with the job, and you'll see here a little job description blurb. Each job should have a chosen source for evidence that is reviewed for appropriateness, and use of it is incorporated into the job. If it is on the right topic, ask the employee at annual review time, what do you need to investigate or know more about? Maybe it's not the topic, but a method, like how to give a winning presentation. Maybe I'll ask for that soon. If the level of sophistication is right for that decision maker. Quality work comes in all sorts of formats, from YouTube videos to TED Talks to business journals to academic papers to raw data for analysis. Now we move on to the other part of making it easy, which is opportunity to do it. There's a great example of this used in our schools now, often called DEAR time, for drop everything and read. It is just really easy to increase reading when you give kids, children, young people, 15 to 30 minutes on a certain day every week. The school is really silent and everyone has to read a book. It's been successful. There's a report on it from the DFE, the Department for Education here in the UK, from March of 2015. There are footnotes for you at the end of the slides today, by the way. Oh, wait just one second. I wanted to point out on this slide, I've included how easy it is to add the consideration of evidence into the job description, and also down at the bottom, how nice it would be to incorporate it into board functions. Most board members would love the time to learn about and discuss new evidence about the interests of the organization, and that would be much less expensive than a lot of other options, like a keynote speaker who would probably only speak on one part of a topic and who may be a bum. Okay, A is for attractive. How do we make something attractive? Pretty as a peach, like this slide. Can it get our attention and make us want to do it? They're good answers to how to make something attractive. Something is attractive if it is fun or rewarding, or if it allows for avoidance of something unpleasant. So make it attractive. Rewarding a behavior will be fun in itself, right? I trust you can do this. How do you get the attention of your team? Maybe simply by paying attention to them. When they want to use evidence, will you pay attention? An EIDM strategy must include a focus on the entire organization, on the organizational strategy, and attract all of the parties to the strategy. An important part of the strategy is the performance review, of course, but there are plenty of options for doing more lively things as well. We're already on S, and S in this day and age is usually for social, of course. Everybody is doing it, and that's what we want. Everybody using evidence, collecting evidence, reading evidence, thinking about the use of evidence in the moments when they're making decisions. This means that they must feel encouraged and supported by peers and supervisors to consider evidence. So encourage time to talk about what they've read or looked at and what they're thinking about. Ask for reports about new evidence, even if the evidence isn't being used. Just doing the report is an important part of learning. Having a social function for our board of directors to receive and discuss new evidence is perfect because it meets our E and our S requirement in EAST. It is easy to attend something before the usual meeting, and it is social. This can be a great tool for cross-pollination between departments and for information to flow to board members, keeping them abreast of the actual work on the ground. Timely, easy, attractive, social, and T is for timely. It's also for tricky, which timely is. Please don't ask someone when a decision is due that day to consider evidence that moment. Ask when it's likely that they'll be receptive to having a look at the evidence or to thinking about where they might look for the evidence. The Behavioral Insights Unit pointed out in its review of the EAST method, the same offer made at different times can have drastically different levels of success. That's sort of a no-brainer, but it's a really good no-brainer to keep a hold of. If behavior needs to change, start that change at a moment when the position of the person is changing, when they're getting a new responsibility, or when a new service is being undertaken. Every time there's a change, actually, make certain that the use of evidence is included in the planning for the new operation. Another part of timely is the immediacy of cost and benefits. So people are more influenced by cost and benefits that take effect immediately than they are by those that are delivered later. So it's not best to make it for next quarter or next year. Make something happen as a benefit very quickly. Also, managers should help people to plan. They should help people plan to collect and review and consider evidence. The Behavioral Insight team explained that a proven solution for this is to prompt people to identify the barriers to using evidence and then develop a plan for addressing those barriers. So clearly something that's done beforehand in a timely manner. Now, I've said be timely, but now I'm going to tell you to hurry. The Overseas Development Institute just released a report beginning with a great warning to charities and not-for-profits, or a great call, which was change and change soon. We have a lot of data to solve some very big problems right now, and we can alleviate the suffering of a lot of people. We don't need to wait around a long time to do it. The alternative is to continue to fail to learn from evidence, to continue to fail to learn from history or from data. We saw the problems caused in the response to the Haitian earthquake of 2010. There was way too much of everything with too little cooperation or organization. Now we've learned from that. We have evidence, and it's been analyzed and presented to us from these various bodies: the Center for Effective Philanthropy, the Epicenter, the Behavioral Insights Unit, all of these bodies, and you've been presented with evidence that is useful from peer-reviewed and reliable sources. You can use it now. See, data and evidence will often come from others. Organizations today are too often failing to realize that it can be much more valuable to use large studies done by others, even for our smaller organizations and programs. Having a data strategy for your organization will help to end useless, time-consuming data collection. If it's happening, which is addressed on your worksheet there, and find the most useful ways to incorporate evidence that's easily obtainable into the role of each decision maker. That's right. You've got it. You were presented with evidence-based methods for incorporating evidence into decision making, and you are going to use the evidence. Now, I don't mean to insult. I know you use evidence all the time. We all do. My point here is that we need to recognize it and recognize that we're using evidence in order to set an example in addition to doing it. And leaders using EIDM are important for establishing the evidence-informed decision-making culture. You will lead by example and incorporation of these principles to more improvement of the organization and to better outcomes for your target beneficiaries. Isn't that what you want? I'm really excited, but, no, I don't mean but, I mean, let's just review a little more because it's important. Remember, we're going to use a slightly different graphic to show what's important here. Begin with that first question, the problem in the middle. What is the thing that your organization seeks to do? Everyone in the organization needs to be made aware of that, because when they know the target, they can then make decisions that are based on working toward it. And they can understand that following the data strategy or data strategies of the organization are going to help them reach the target. This is a huge problem in and of itself for organizations, making them know what's in that center. Business researchers found that as few as 16% of employees know what the goal of their organization is. Do you know what percentage of your employees know the goal of your organization? The first step in determining a data strategy is always figuring out what the goal is, and maybe then subsets of the goal. After that, there has to be constant communication and updating to make sure that everybody's eyes are kept on the target. With the company data strategy, then, you might have developments that have these different points coming in, but notice everything is going toward the main target. All of the sub-targets are part of the main target. With a company data strategy, everyone becomes aware of that macro goal, the main target, and how their micro goal in their division or in their topic is related to the bigger goal. There's a term used by impact evaluators called theory of change. It is basically a tool for discovering the goal of the organization. If it's not approached carefully, though, it can become a very unhelpful exercise. It can become too complex, and people won't understand how their sub-target lays on top of the main target and how they work together. In this first step, if this first step for many programs that try to set an evidence using culture fails to focus the attention of everyone on the big target, then it's likely that the lessons learned from the evidence will be completely lost in the chaos. I see it all too often in small and medium-sized organizations that are overwhelmed and struggling with data. The good news is that we've been studying the charity sector's attempts to become evidence-based, and we're learning from failure, which can be the most valuable sort of lesson, and you've done it today. With a more effective data strategy, you will find more meaningful insights, have more meaningful successes and failures to report and analyze. There will be management of the organization that will be evidence-based as well, which will lead to happier staff and managers and better work, and everyone will reach more goals. We have a lot of data in our programs and not usually a lot of learning from it. Is it a matter of having too much data? Well, have we solved the problem yet? If the answer is no, then I tend to think we might not be looking at the right data or looking at the data properly. And that is a data strategy problem. You have a complicated, very difficult task, how to solve real problems, not just how to hold on to minimal funding or comply with reporting. Those are not growth strategies. The data is not just numbers. That data is life. It is happiness and sadness, hunger and plenty, and that data is waiting for us. We can do it. We do it all the time. We are amazing at solving for-profit problems. We have the same tools for solving not-for-profit problems. Your teams are passionate and very intelligent. They can find solutions when they have the right data. The question is only, how soon will we get to it? So the big question for you right now is, how do you want to proceed? How do you want to do your part? You have options. And my goal is to help your organization. So here are your options. 1, just put all of this on your list of things to do. It is not entirely bad. You are a capable leader, I know, and you have a lot of knowledge and leadership about what your organization does. You can put what you've learned on your list of things to do, and you'll have the benefit of participating in the list that we're going to begin, which will include some ongoing team support. You can make a data strategy alone or with colleagues. You won't be alone for long, I'm sure. Others will agree with what we've learned today. If you do it without professional help, that's all right. Enlist help from colleagues because, as we've learned, sustaining these changes is a very daunting challenge. Leading by example and incorporating EAST into the use of evidence plan is a plan based on high-quality evidence. Your team will join you because they're dedicated to the goals just like you are. In a few seconds, I'm going to tell you how to join a supportive group of EIDM leaders like you. You can use that even if you don't enlist any of Network Planet's services, because we at Network Planet are really committed to doing as much as possible in an open source and sharing economy manner. We can't do everything like that, but we do our part. The other option is to let us help you get all of the data working for you and with your organization. You can use Network Planet as consultants, designers, trainers, or some combination. I want you to know that you get much more than just me when you engage with Network Planet. You get a team of techies and analysts, and we are way committed to helping your team. We never want to be discouraging to your staff. We appreciate what they do, and we want them to be empowered and excited. So we come in with our let's solve this problem and grow this organization mentality, unlike other consultants who sometimes come in with a let's downsize and be more efficient and make things more trouble. The next so we offer EIDM courses, and we're offering a series that is just for leaders especially. The next one will focus on the most cited reasons for being afraid of data collection and of data use and sharing. The first part is going to teach you what you want to know about data protection and privacy laws. And I'm really looking forward to getting into the real details of this and real application of the law, because I do enjoy getting into the law and cases and demystifying that stuff. You'll leave confident that you can lead your organization forward in using an EIDM method. And when other organizations are awful fearful of legal compliance and fail to act on data because of that. And then we'll delve into more about open and linked data. It's a wonderful world of tech meets real world, and I'm confident that you'll leave excited about taking steps toward your problem-solving goals. You'll leave with materials to guide you and with a new network and resources to keep your knowledge up to date. This course will be followed by others, designed based on what you want and need to keep moving forward. And in these courses, we'll check in with you and check up on you. We will help you keep at it. Learning is one thing, but changing and maintaining a new way of working requires regular checking in. We will use the EAST principles just like we expect you to use them. These are really workshops more than courses. They're small groups so we can work with each attendee through the process. You can sign up for a series of courses, one every month, or for one at a time. Each half-day workshop is £197 per person. They're held in central London when they're live. We do make recordings, and we make those available also for fee. These courses would easily cost more than £400 per person if they were offered by other organizations, and those organizations would not have the same technical and not-for-profit expertise that Network Planet has, nor would they be as interactive or supportive. Our next live course is the 10th of November, 2016 at the National Council of Voluntary Organizations. It's behind King's Cross Station in central London. Sign up is easy. Just click on the link if you're live with me now. If you're not, send an email. And it's on Eventbrite as well. So cost for our courses are less than what you'd find anywhere else. We're a really efficient tech company with very low overhead, and we just charge what we have to do a good job. Usually doesn't involve as much as other places charge. The half-day course, this first one on November 10th, will be the only one offered at £97 because we're launching this new campaign. And we've added 5 tickets for the first 5 people that respond to this video for £65. Seeing as it will still be a small group, however, you should probably click now to reserve your place at the table. If you don't get into this one, that's all right. Watch, there will be another one in a few weeks. We keep our live workshops small to allow for real work on participants' questions. I'm not shy about rolling up my sleeves and getting to work on things as we encounter them. This is a lot of times like a group consultation, except we deliver a whole load of really valuable content, which is, of course, good data, good information, good analysis. I'll just tell you that other organizations always charge more than £295 for this, which always surprises me. I don't know anybody that offers the same sort of quality and training. I'm going to change the slide now to give you the free sign-up information for the list that we're creating. But the next slide will continue to have the way to get into that course for November. So I'm really excited about this. It is membership in Charity Leaders Sharing, a LinkedIn group we're kicking off soon, only open to invited members, Every week I'll post new articles from reputable, peer-reviewed sources, and they will concern management practices and/or data strategies. The group members can also share and ask questions of one another. It will, however, be a moderated group. The staff at Network Planet will remove anyone if they become a problem for the group's functioning. If you click on the title or send an email, it will let me know you want to take part. I just need to ask you to be sure that you give me a full name and the name that you use on LinkedIn, because I know some of you, those might not be the same thing. So I'll need to be able to find you there to invite you to be part of the group. I promise to keep this group evidence informed. It's a great joy to be able to run this group. So I want to keep your involvement as beneficial for the nonprofits that you're working with and for you. It will not be static. We will change. We will fail. We will be successful. I'm really excited about the learning journey we're going to go on. Before I end the program, I should let you know that Network Planet offers other services, actually. We offer courses for your staff for all parts of your organization. We can help you get everyone on the same page using evidence and maintaining a sort of unity of purpose, even if your situation changes because you solve some problems and move on to others. These courses can be offered around the world and in several languages. We have a team of researchers, analysts, programmers who we can arrange for your organization's needs, and we're really happy to be leading this sort of global effort. Our consultancy can be anything you want, full assessments and plans for any organization. It can include leadership training, staff training, research and identification of appropriate resources for your staff, help managing and expanding data strategies, design of staff programs and periodic retreats for data review, technical solutions for open and linked data, and advice for managing the systems that you already have in place. You can use either of those emails, contact@networkplanet.com or leah@networkplanet.com, to start the process of trying to set something up. So again, our next course is the 10th of November. You might be watching this video after the 10th of November. In that case, have a look at our website. Under the training, there's a section for techie training, and then there's also sections for the trainings that are in my division, which is obviously not as technical. Here's the resources cited, and I just realized a second ago that I don't have the Epicenter article on here, I think, which is titled The Science of Using Science, and it was published in March or April of 2016 by the University College London Epicenter for Systematic Reviews. And one of the authors was David Gough. I will, and that's spelled G-O-U-G-H. If you would like a copy of the resource cited, let me know, and I'll send it to you with the addition of that other article in it. Thanks so much. Have a terrific day, and I really look forward to working with you. Ciao.